Hi guys, so today I am with Jo, who is one of the Strong AF girls, and she's been with us now for the last 9 months. And during that time, she's gone from being a restrictive dieter to Strong AF in just 9 months. And I wanted to bring her on here to talk to you about her journey, why she decided to join us in the first place, her challenges that she's overcome, and yeah, just pretty much your journey over the last 9 months. So welcome, Jo.
Hello, good evening. How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
Good. So why don't we start from the very beginning? Let's actually introduce yourself to everyone first. Let us know who you are, what you do, what you're all about.
Yeah, so like you said, I'm Jo. I'm 37 soon. But so yeah, my background is in policing, detective inspector in the police. So quite a stressful, gruesome job. But I'm also a coach, sort of a performance and corporate coach for high performing women leaders and executives. Not in the fitness arena like you are, more of a sort of career and confidence element that I focus on. So yeah, so I'm sort of got those two things going on as well. So yeah, so previously about 3 years ago I competed competed in an athletic fitness category, athletic figure, sorry, with PCA. Competed in the June and the September of that year. Actually competed, I think I did 4 shows in 3 months, which was
Crazy.
Crazy. But I looked amazing through that summer, so it was all good. So so I competed then, really lean, really pleased with my physique, and had every intention of competing again the following year. When it came round to the following year, having had my off season, my body basically said, no, thank you. Not having any of that, don't want to do that. And literally it came to, I persisted because, having worked with me for the last 9 months, if nothing, I'm consistent and persistent, and determined to achieve what I want to achieve. So yeah, persisted. And in the end, about probably 6 or 7 weeks out from the show, just had to accept that there was no way I was going to do it. I couldn't physically do any more in my day. Couldn't fit any more cardio in, couldn't fit any more training in, I couldn't physically eat any less and still survive. So I had to sort of accept that competing that year was not going to be for me. So that took us to 2 years ago. Sort of had conversations with numerous different people, GPs, NHS GPs aren't that great when it comes to sports and, athletic bodies and, all that good stuff in nutrition. So yeah, I spoke to a load of people and they were kind of like, well, you need to train less and eat more because your body and your metabolism just aren't really having any of it. So I did that, but gained weight clearly, and I was already heavier than I wanted to be. So wasn't very happy, wasn't very good, in a sort of good place. Tried loads of different stuff, and in the end I just continued to gain weight and sort of took matters into my own hand and decided that eating more and training less was not the answer for me anymore. So then went to sort of quite extreme opposite where I was when I started with you, in that I was eating probably only 1,000 calories a day, doing
Calories.
I know, it's crazy when I think of it now. So yeah, eating that, but doing no end of cardio, training really hard, still working full time as well. So just doing loads, couldn't fit any more into my day again. And still not having any effect. Still, maintaining my weight rather than losing anything. And if anything, probably still gaining a bit. So I was significantly heavier than I was obviously when on stage, and even sort of before I started my prep for that first show, or that first sort of run of shows. So I was at my wit's end really, because I just, that was not happy with who I was, how I looked, with how my clothes fit or didn't fit, as the case may be. And so I then got introduced to you guys, and had a chat with you and Ross, and decided that you clearly knew your stuff. And I've worked with different trainers over the years as well, and no disrespect to any of them, they've all got their place. And the trainer I was working with when I competed got me into a great shape for the show, but clearly the back end of that with my body, I think just didn't work. So yes, I signed up with you guys, had a mild panic attack when you pretty much, well, I think more than doubled the calories that I was eating when I started with you.
Yes.
But
Let's touch on that quickly.
yeah,
So from someone who went from 1,000 calories up to, I think, what did we start on? 2,000 or more?
I think we're on about 2-2.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And then obviously for anyone who doesn't know, the reason for that is like what Joe just said, her body was in a very bad way, terms of like she had no energy in her to do her workout, she had no energy to train, eat, or just even do like your day-to-day activity. So what your body needs when you're in that state is you need to reboot it. Essentially, you need to give it the energy. It's like, how can you expect a car to run if it has no petrol in it? And it's exactly the same with the human body. Like, we are more technical than the car, so we need to listen to our body and feel it. So what we did with Joe was we started on her maintenance for where she was at then, not her maintenance from when she finished her show, her true maintenance now. And then from there, we stay there for a while and just got your body used to having more food and more energy. So talk to me about that experience. Like, how did you find that going from 1,000 calories to like double the amount of calories and actually moving less?
As I say, I had a mild panic attack when I got my plan through from what you sent me that first week. But I'm very much of the opinion whatever I'd done, whatever I had tried up to that point hadn't worked. And I hadn't signed up to you to not listen to the guidance you were going to give me, because I could do my own thing without signing up to you guys. So there was no point in me signing up, and I had to trust the process, and I had to trust what you were saying, and logically. And this is where I think probably like a lot of people, I do have that conflict. I'm a fairly intelligent person, I do have that very logical side of my brain, but equally when it comes to you're not happy with how you look, how you have that emotional side as well, don't you? So it's that balancing act of that. So logically I knew everything that you were saying was absolutely right, and having done sort of my own research, it's just having the emotional commitment to then do that. So it was a bit like military precision in terms of timing my meals, making sure I was eating enough, because it felt like a massive amount of food. And considering that, I then cut all the cardio that I'd been doing, I suddenly wasn't running for, a few miles each day, which I had been doing. So that kind of inner panic sort of set in, but I just trusted the process. And even in the first week on my, what were deemed to be my maintenance calories, I lost I lost centimeters and weight. So I think once you start to see the results, that emotional side sort of goes a bit, because you can see that it's actually working, can't you? And you can.
So was you weighing yourself throughout this process, or like, and if so, like how often was you doing it? Because so many people are fixated on the scales and the weight, and I know that obviously with you at the beginning it was like that, because that's where you come from. It's like, well, if the scales aren't moving, I'm a failure. So yeah. Talk about that process of like how often you're weighing yourself and things like that.
So to start with, I was weighing myself quite a lot, and obviously all through competing I was weighing myself all the time, and it was crazy. But then it did get to a stage where, because I hated how I looked, I hated what I was seeing in the mirror, I hated how my clothes fit, and I hated what I was seeing on the scales. It did get to a point that I was like, I'm not getting on them. I'm just not getting on them. I don't want to know, because I know that it's not going to be, and I could feel it in my clothes, and I could feel it, so I did actually get to the point that I wasn't getting on them at all. So getting onto the scales to get that progress sort of gauge for you was actually quite a big thing, because I didn't want to do it, because I didn't want to have to. I knew that I was heavier than I wanted to be, massively heavier than I wanted to be. So I kind of wanted to live in denial a little bit that it wasn't as bad as I thought. But then obviously, and I was strict with myself. And again, I think it's one thing that I do is, I like processes and plans and, structure. So I hide the scales, whenever I have to weigh myself for a few of my check-ins with you, the scales come out, and I do it, and then they go away, because it removes that temptation for me. And I know that I weigh myself once a week, and equally, again, the logical side of my head knows that it's no good weighing yourself every day, because your body weight's going to fluctuate through the week. And so for me, it's controlling that logical side of my head to say, actually, well, there's no point. You weigh once a week to get a gauge for my check-ins, to make sure we're heading in the right direction, the plan's still working, without that temptation to then self-sabotage, because that there is that emotional side of my head would have had that response, I think, in that, well, if my weight had gone up one day, even though I'd been really strict and stuck to everything and stuck to my nutrition plan, stuck to my training plan, but my weight had gone up, then I, you know, at that point when I first started with you, my mindset would have been, well, it's not working, so what's the point? And then I'd have probably just reached for the chocolate, or, you know, and obviously that's not going to help at all. And, you know, weighing yourself too often is just going to undermine everything you're doing, isn't it?
Exactly. So how was you measuring your progress then? Because as I said, I know with you at the start, it was like the reason why we had to hide the scales was because we were doing a weigh-in every week, and you was obviously getting the result you wanted, because obviously your body was at that point where it's like, well, no, we're not going to be shifting actual weight itself, but we are going to be losing inches and centimeters and stuff. And for anyone that's obviously watching this, it's really, really hard for them, even if they know they're losing centimeters and inches. If the weight's not going down, they're still thinking that they're not succeeding. So for you, like, how did you track your progress throughout this time? Like, how was you measuring your success?
So a big one for me was how my clothes were fitting, which is obviously around the centimeters and the you know, the measurement loss. The other thing for me is the energy, you know, the energy that I had. You know, I suddenly felt able, and my strength in the gym, you know, I was able to put more effort into my workouts. I was able to lift heavier again, you know, and actually feel better in myself. And like I say, with the, you know, even, you know, with photographs and the measurements, you can see the difference then, can't you? And how you clothe, you know, whether that's, you know, the proper photographs for your check-ins, or whether it's just, you know, how your clothes fit on a daily basis when you're getting ready for work. It, you know, that was a better indicator for me, because, and again, I think probably from my competing back or sort of history, that logical part of my head said, well, actually it doesn't, you know, the scales aren't going to be, you know, they're an indicator, but actually, you know, if you'd stood me next to somebody else who weighed exactly the same as me but didn't have the muscle density that I had, then we were going to weigh completely differently. So I did, you know, from that, I have always had that kind of inner battle with the emotional side of my brain and the logical sort of factual side.
And the factual side is that your weight is your gravitational pull to the earth. That's it, nothing more. And like you said, it's so hard to track what's muscle, water, sodium, like everything like this, like hormonal, menstrual cycles, everything like that is going to affect it 100%. So I just wanted to go back to when we was talking about food and 1,000 calories and stuff like that. So talk to me about the kind of foods that you were eating back then when you was like doing bodybuilding to what you eat now, because so many people think that when, oh, like she must be eating chicken and broccoli and eating really boring foods, and she's probably not eating out. They're probably watching this thinking, oh, she's probably not eating out all the time and stuff. So talk to us about where you were then to where you are now when it comes to food.
So yeah, so when I was competing and with my coach sort of at that point, then it was the chicken and broccoli and, you know, white fish and, you know, all the stereotypical stuff, and sort of a really controlled, well, it was a structured meal plan. You know, I didn't have a choice. You know, that was what I ate. And again, the kind of systems and processes and structural side of me, that I just kind of accepted it and got on with it because that was my goal. And that's what I did. But it was boring, and it was, you know, it was soul destroying and really difficult when it came to like family occasions and meals out with friends, and, you know, everyone wants to sit there, and I got to the point where I was either not going to the meals or sitting there and like, oh, I'll just have the plain salad please, or, you know, something. And it, you know, everyone else has got these delicious meals and foods in front of them, whereas now, obviously with the progress that I've made since I've been with you, I've been eating what I want. I did joke on one of my check-ins a while back. I said, I'm going to call this the tiramisu diet because, you know, with the calories I'm having, obviously, and with the macros that I've got, and even now, you know, even 9 months on, and with the progress that I've made and the reduction of calories we've had because my weight's gone down, even now, you know, I'm on a decent amount of calories. My macros are good, and, you know, I can still have, what did I like? I had, you know, the Biscoff ice cream the other night, and, you know, if I fancy, I don't have it all the time, but if I fancy it, I know that I can have it and I can track it and I can plan it in, and it's not off limits. You know, nothing's off limits. Like, you know, and as I said, I joked with Ross on one of my check-ins that it was the tiramisu diet, because I'd had tiramisu within my plan, within my macros, and can have it without feeling guilty about it and still make progress.
I love that. And that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's having food work for you, not the other way around. Like, what is the point in doing a diet or a lifestyle, for example, and not being able to enjoy it, not being able to go out with your friends and family? And this is why people yo-yo up and down for so long, because it's like they're either on a diet or then they're not doing anything, they're just eating whatever they want, but like out of control. And it tends to cycle of binge eating and stuff. So it's like learning and having the education like you now have, so you can understand about food and go out with your friends and family and understand that even if you did go over your calories one day, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah,
pretty much, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's that that understanding of that and that not feeling guilty about it, because I think previously I would have, if I'd done that, if I'd gone out for a meal and had that, I'd have then thought the next day, well, I can't eat today, because I've got to balance out all the bad stuff that I had yesterday. And actually, it's not bad, it's just food, it's just not necessarily as nutritious or as helpful towards your goals.
Exactly.
But yeah.
No, I love that. So let's talk about lifestyle factors now, because this plays a huge part, and this has played a massive part in your journey.
Yeah.
And one of the things that is overlooked so much in the fitness industry, which is sleep and stress.
Yeah.
So I know that we got to a point with you in your journey where it was like you were doing all the training, eating your food, eating enough food. We were doing regular diet breaks and refeeds to make sure that we wasn't again getting to that point of where your body's like trying to shut down. So when we took a deeper look, you were like, well, actually, like, I'm so stressed out of work. I'm not really sleeping that good. Talk to us about that and how much of a difference it made when you actually took a step back, focused on self-love tasks and strategies, and like took that time away from work. That epic result that you got in literally a week that I posted up on the Instagram page the other day. And it looks like, when I asked everyone, how long do you think these results are? Everyone was saying 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 6 months. Someone even said a year and a half, which is crazy. So let's talk about that. How much does stress have an impact on your fat loss results?
It's massive. And again, I always knew that stress clearly wasn't just a psychological thing, it was a physiological thing as well, and it had those impacts on your body. But I'd never realized how much. And it got to a point for me, so work was ridiculously stressful for a whole number of factors that I won't bore everybody with now, but it was horrendous. And I just couldn't keep going like it. And it was impacting on my sleep, which was clearly then impacting on everything else. It's just a vicious sort of downward spiral, really, that was not getting me anywhere. So it got to a point that I decided I had to do something about it. And it was, as much for my mental health as for my physical health. But even things like I'd been for a massage, and my massage therapist, who I've seen fairly regularly, she knows my body, and she said, well, actually, normally you've got some muscle tightness from training, and a bit here and a bit there. She said my shoulders were like concrete. She said
stress in your neck.
Yeah, the tension in my body, and even in my lower back, she couldn't physically release the tension in my lower back without digging her elbow into my glutes. It was ridiculous, the impact it was having on my body. And obviously my sleep as well, I was just exhausted. I was going to bed and getting to sleep really well because I was just exhausted, and then waking up sort of 2 or 3 times in the night and just not sleeping well. So I decided to take a step back from work for a little while, and literally within, I think that check-in progress, obviously the 2 photographs were 7 days apart,
7 days.
and the measurements were 7 days apart, but I think it was probably the second one was 10 days after I finished my last day at work for that time. And literally, I think I'd lost sort of, well, a good, I can't remember off the top of my head what it was, but a good number of centimeters, and the photographs looked like completely different people. I couldn't believe it when the comparison came up on my check-in feedback. I was like, I just couldn't believe it. Looked like you say, it looked like it was sort of 3 months worth. It looked like they might have been from Christmas or something, and then now.
Exactly. So that was literally 7 days. So if someone is in the same position as you right now, they're really stressed at work and they're sleeping, what would your advice be to them? If they've hit a plateau in their fat loss journey, what would you tell them?
Put yourself first. I resisted taking time off for a long time because I felt guilty for my team. I didn't want to let them down. And I think there's still there's still a stigma that actually, if you're good at your job, if you're, professional woman, you are successful, you're ambitious, you're driven, then why should a little bit of stress stop you carrying on? I think there is still that, but actually it's massive, and it does affect your physical health as well as your mental health, and you can only go for so long. And I think, regardless of whether it's for your fat loss journey, well, whatever it's for, if it's affecting your mental health or your physical health, you need to put yourself first. You need to do something, whatever that is, and however that works for you. And if that's just taking care of yourself a bit better through the week or at the weekends, or whether it is stepping back and taking some time just to properly rest. I did nothing but sleep, really. I had loads of naps in that first week, and I wouldn't have thought I'd needed it, but clearly I did. Clearly, I just started listening to my body and allowing myself that time without feeling guilty. Because when you're at work and when you're concentrating on everything else, you slip into those bad habits of putting everything else and everyone else first, and you neglect how you kind of don't even notice how you're feeling, I don't think, because you just press on with everything that you need to do. And you just, you're so disciplined with the routine and with the structure and knowing what you have to do that you don't allow yourself that time to actually listen to what your body needs. And it has a massive impact. And I still can't believe the difference in those photographs, because that is literally the only difference. My food didn't change in that week, my training didn't change in that week, everything else was the same. My water, it was just that stress.
There you go, guys. If you want to lose fat in a week, stress and get you good quality sleep. But it is so important. I always say we always say to you girls as well, it's like, if you want to be the best parent, sister, colleague, partner that you can be, you have to put yourself first. And that means saying no to things and saying no to people. And if you're turning up every single day low of energy and you're stressing out to people and you're telling your kids off because you're always cranky all the time, or you're always biting your husband's head off, no one wants to be around that kind of person, right? We're all like, oh gosh, she's a bit anxious today. So it's all about putting yourself first so you can be the best person you can be, and then you can show up as the best person you can be, which is exactly what you're doing now. And we're really, really proud of you.
Yeah, thanks. It's and I think getting just back on that subject, I think the thing that people don't realize is actually, they're so busy doing everything. Actually, if you take that time to rest, you're so much more productive in a shorter space of time, so you can have that balance and create that balance, and no one loses out. Yeah. And everyone stands to gain from it, because you can get so much more done, get everything you need to be done, and still have the energy to enjoy yourself. Exactly. And to put that time in. So yeah, it's
oh, that makes me so happy hearing those words come out of your mouth. Amazing. Thank you, Jo. So last question. Yes. What would you say to someone who was thinking of starting their very own journey, and maybe they've been like, not too sure for a while? Like, what would you say to them?
Do it. Just start, because the longer you put it off, the harder it's going to be. And then certainly where I was, I was trying everything, and I was doing everything that, logically you should be doing, and it wasn't having the effect. And all it was doing was, and we talk about the stress element, the fact that I was gaining weight despite putting all that effort in was stressing me out at the time. Mm-hmm. It was a whole different, when you're not comfortable with how you look, when you're not comfortable with how you feel, with how your body is, with, with any of that, it's an added layer of stress. So it actually just makes it even harder. So just by taking control and by getting a structured program in place that is bespoke and suitable for you and your lifestyle and your body, you take away that level of stress, which, as we've said already, in itself has an impact in terms of your fat loss journey. But equally, that mental pressure is gone, because you're allowing somebody else to help you, and you can start rather than allowing it to progress another 3 months down the line, which is just going to take you further away from where you want to be.
100%. Love that. And let's just throw this out there, because I love to put people on the spot. But what is your best quote of all time that's relevant to where you are right now?
Best quote of all time relevant to where I am now. Well, I suppose I'd have to quote Ross, won't I? Confidence isn't a light switch. You can't just turn it on and off.
There you go.
Muscle, you have to do the reps. Yeah.
Awesome.
But yeah, it's true. And you do feel more confident when you feel happy in how you look and how you feel and how your body performs. And I think
I love it. Thank you so much, Jo, for joining us. And as I said, anyone else who is interested in coming to join the team and join Jo on her incredible journey, come and join a community of like-minded people. All you have to do is head over to our links, which are going to be down here, and we'll look forward to speaking with you soon.